Once in a while, I get into an older aircraft, or I should say older, an aircraft that's been around for a little while, and I am disgusted with myself that it took me as long as it took to buy the aircraft that I did. And this aircraft today is one of those aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Oh, there it is. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 20. Oh, there it is again, 2024, and welcome to the Fly Somewhere Learjet 35A. Now, if you're younger, you might not be familiar with this aircraft or Bill Lear or the significance of this aircraft, but the Learjet family of aircraft were absolute rocket ships for absolute rock stars back in their days. These aircraft, I saw actually a Learjet, I think it was a 45, leaving my hometown airport, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month or so ago. And the rate of climb that aircraft had leaving was insane. It was insane. It must have been like 3,000, like an airline level climb rate, 3,000 feet per minute, maybe more. It was insane, absolutely insane. So we're going to give this aircraft the full sample treatment today, looking first and foremost at textures. We'll get all the covers off of it and all that stuff. And then we'll take a listen to the sounds of the aircraft. And then, of course, we'll get it up in the air. We're going to do a short pattern. We're currently in Lihue, Hawaii, and we're going to fly from here, do a touch and go, and then return in the old Learjet. So without further ado, let's begin. So the Learjet 35. What a wonderful, wonderful aircraft. I'm so happy to have it in the sim. Let's get into the textures. I'm relatively fresh on this airplane. I've done a little bit of flying, but I haven't really looked too much at the textures. I've actually done a lot of flying in this airplane, if I'm being honest. I purchased it a little while ago, and then the devs Black Square and air-to-air released their aircraft, which you will have already seen those if you haven't. They're up on the channel right now, so go give them a watch. So I backburned this airplane for a little bit, but I've been flying it in my off time ever since, and I adore it. I will say textures, they're not perfect. I mean, they're not bad, right? And this is kind of my go-around staple. We get up close with the nose wheel here, you can see just texture degradation on what I'm assuming is a seal for the hub, and the not lugs, what are these, the bolts for the two-piece wheel. It just looks a little bit funny. I do like the detail of the chined tire. I talk about chined tires every now and then when we come across them. I think the last time was on the Flight Sim Studio 727. Chined wheels effectively throw rocks and debris and rain and whatever else you might have coming off of a nose wheel away for this direction from the engine, so you don't get FOD ingestion from your nose wheel. We're going to ignore the livery because those can be changed very easily. We're just going to look at the core product. Overall, I think it looks very good as far as the rivets and detail go. I like the reflections, the difference in reflections, excuse me, from the windows to the rest of the fuselage. Get real up close and you can see a little bit of texture degradation on some of our antennas, it would seem, but won't be too nitpicky. We'll be a little bit nitpicky. That's not a nice round shape on a, I don't know what type of antenna this is. This is an older aircraft. For all I know, it could be a Loran antenna. It's not a Loran antenna, but interestingly, if we go to this side and we zoom in on where the first part of our dorsal mount meets the empennage back here, it looks smooth on this side, but it's all rough. I think that's down to a livery design. So again, we'll gloss past that. I love the differentiation. You can really tell that this is a different material. The metal on the leading edge of the tail versus the shiny paint. Both are shiny, but they're different levels of shiny. Good detail on the rotating beacons. We'll see those a little bit later. It appears there is no blurriness on them, which we saw in the Black Square Baron. Great detail on that nav light. No complaints there. We'll get to the engines, I promise. We'll get to the engines. We'll get to the main landing gear. I never do these the same because I'm inconsistent. these static wicks are actually animated, so as we get airspeed over the wings, you'll see them start to flap around a little bit. Great detail, and this is what I was talking about again on the Baron. So you've got your navigation strobe light. This whole area back here, it's a different color. In this case, it's black. I think this is true to life. I love that. Great texture, resolution on the earth ground. If you zoom way the hell in, it falls down a little bit, but why would you be that zoomed in? Good details on the wingtip fuel tank refilling port. Would like to see a little bit higher level of detail on the LED landing light matrix, or the recognition light matrix, excuse me. Landing lights are inboard right here on the mains. This is obviously just a 2D model, and it's a lower poly one at that. I'd even say at this distance it looks just a little bit rough. You gotta kind of step out to, I don't know, maybe there. Good detail on the leading edge. We've got some nice screws running alongside rivets. Let's look at the main landing gear, then we'll get to the engines. Similar thing with the bolts and that main hub there, as well as there's an attempt at detail on the wheels. You can see where there should be what I'm assuming is serialized information, and there just isn't. You can see that these are Goodyear, probably, I don't know, does Firestone make the Airhawks? It doesn't matter. Goodyear Air 1 tires, but again, they're just a little bit lower resolution than I would like. I don't know much about the braking system on the Learjet. That looks okay. Again, just kind of lower textures on what I'm assuming are the ride points for the application cylinders. I don't know the actuation mechanism. Up into the there. Good detail in the gear bay. Nothing blowing my mind here, but it's adequate. Love the modeled sumps. Again, this is not a perfectly clean airplane. You can see the dirt on the underside where all those seams meet. Some smoking rivets as well. I like my aircraft to look a little bit used. This one looks like it's well kept but used. And here we arrive at the engine. One engine. Good reflection off of that spinner. A little bit low detail. Weird reflection actually on the tip there as we go and pass the nacelle. No additional engine detail. Internal, just that first stage. And then there's the business end, your turbine. And then I don't think the Learjet had a bypass. It's part of what killed them. Is these were the old style. I mean, that is literally the turbine. There's no noise abatement stuff on this at all. It's part of what made them perform as well as they did. But emissions happened and kind of killed them. Also, they were loud and they had to be fitted with hush kits to make it into and out of a lot of airports. And in a lot of cases, those hush kits and the engine retrofits needed to keep the Learjet viable for the various locations were not cost effective, and the owners decided not to keep them flying. Either that or they bought newer jets. And it's the same thing on the landing light. That does not look good. You can see the warped distortion. So they took that same 2D texture off of the recognition lights and just stretched it to fit here. You can see those screws are, one, oversized, especially if you look at the screws now. They're too big and they're distorted out. So I'm not a fan of that. That's not going to get fixed no matter how far away you go. That's always going to look funny. Did we look at the... No, I don't have them there. It's a combination landing taxi light, so I don't know if like the taxi light is on the outer ring and the landing lights in the inner ring. I'm not entirely certain. We have a wing light singular on the Learjet. There it is. And we've got an AOA vane and a pitot tube. And whatever this thing is. No one told me what this was, so I still don't know what it is, but pitot tube, angle of attack indicator. I have no idea what that's for. I think that's enough of the outside. Oh, we'll get a quick look at the canopy bow. more of the same. Relatively good detail. Love to see it. Let's head inside of the old Learjet, and we'll take a look at the tablet in a second here. Let's take a look at the cockpit textures. This is where Flight Sim Studio excels, in my opinion. Everything is nice and crisp. We can go ahead and get up close and personal. And for the most part, textures stay relatively intact. See a little bit of degradation at this zoom level. But for most of your flights, this is going to be just a fine place to be, and that's good because that's where we're going to spend most of our time. This aircraft is capable to have the GNS 750 as well as the 430. I think there might be additional options, actually, if I go back to... Is it here? Yep, right here. So we've got the 530 to 750, and if you have the paid 750XI, you can have that as well. Little clicky pen here hides your yoke. Alternatively, you can just click it. But if that's too difficult, you've got a little pen that you can click, so that's cute. Let's look at nothing on the overhead panel to note. Let's look at the cabin. Really quick. Something I did not do on the Baron. But we've got a modeled cabin with, you know, your animated tray tables, animated window shades. That's what all the window shades move. Is that a real airplane? That is a real airplane. There's a real airplane flying overhead. Didn't know if it was here in the sim. That's how good simulations got. And then we can also manage our passengers. So should we choose to throw some people on board, put a kid in there, put a kid there, and then we can load our luggage as well. And then we'll return to the cabin, and you can see we've got people now. Wow, hello people. Welcome aboard. You're probably going to want to get off because it's not going to be a smooth flight. I'll tell you that right now. All right, let's go ahead, get the Learjet buttoned up, and we will... Oh yeah, there's modeled lighting. So we're not really going to be able to see it right now, but you can turn on all of this different lighting. It's on a hot battery bus, so it should always come on when the switch is flipped, unlike the individual passenger reading lights. So let's go ahead and get into starting the Learjet 35. Alright, so startup of the Learjet is actually a lot simpler than you might think. There's just buttons in odd places is all. First thing I'm going to do is hide both of my yokes because I'm going to need to access switches in both of those locations. And let's turn on our master battery. 1 and 2, we'll hit the inverters. And then we'll hit the nav and beacon lights, like so. I will say, the external lighting suite leaves a little bit to be desired, in my personal opinion. Particularly the strobe lights, they're weak. It's a unfortunate staple. There's the strobe on the wing, and you can't even really see the one on the tail. Beacon's rotating away at the top there. That looks nice. I like that. It's an incandescent bulb, so it wouldn't be crazy bright. The strobes would. They're flash bulbs. Let's do taxi lights. Oh, yeah, you have to do it on the stupid... Never mind. We'll do taxi lights, landing lights, recognition lights in a moment. Because unlike a lot of other aircraft, the Flight Sim Studio aircraft don't work very well with my bindings for whatever reason. Anyway, nonetheless, power's on, inverters are on. Let's go to do an engine starts. That's all done in this panel down here. You've got your generator switch, which is also your starter switch. It serves two functions. So let's start the left engine first. And we're going to be watching turbine RPM. Sorry, not turbine RPM. We're going to watch, yeah, turbine RPM. Once we're at about 18-ish%, we'll throw fuel in. And then we'll watch our turbine temperature, make sure we don't get a hot start. And that we're nice and stabilized. So there's 18%. I'm now going to move this throttle into the idle position. You can hear the aircraft light up a little bit there. I'm going to turn it up in the post for you guys so you can hear it a little bit better. And while we're generating on that first engine, let's give a sweep of the controls, toggle some of the switches. To me, it sounds very reminiscent of a standard Flight Sim Studio airplane, minus the flaps. The flaps have a unique sound. The switches and all that remind me of the Cessna 414 that I also have. Red engine spooling. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18%. Here comes fuel. Temperature's looking good. Falling back down. And we're at 55%, so let's go into generation. And we can come over here. We'll turn on our radio altimeter, our autopilot, and our avionics master. Should have had the emergency battery in standby. It's my mistake. And that's effectively it. We've got a couple of warnings here. Our stall system, we need to set takeoff trim, pitot heat's off, and I turned on the nose wheel steering. So, let's do stall warning first. We're going to leave pitot heat off for now. Takeoff trim, we can look at that down here. So let's go ahead and get our aircraft into trim. Now that we've got hydraulic power, if we didn't have the engines running, we could turn on our manual hydraulic power via the hydraulic pump here. But now we have it. Let's take a listen to the fasten seatbelt sign. I love that. That sounds great. And we can also throw on our headset to make things a little quieter. Ready? That's nice, but I want to hear the engines. We're here for a review, so. Looks like those are all good. Those are all good. Can't click that little fan switch there. That's your wing light. Interestingly enough, on the co-pilot side, I guess it's because the light is on the co-pilot side, so maybe they want to give that person direct control. We're not going to be getting into pressurized flight, but obviously the Learjet being a business jet, you can do pressurized flight. And then we have our spoiler switch there should you choose to actuate it manually. We're not going to do that today. Well, we will use the spoiler later, but in the interim, let's go taxi lights on, pitot heat and the steering. Let's go park brake off. We should start rolling here. Yes, we are. Take a quick look outside. Take a look at these taxi lights. Relatively good cast. It's broad daylight right now, so, or I guess early afternoon. Early evening, rather, excuse me. And, I don't know, I think they look alright. They could be better, but, it's not the worst taxi lights that I've seen. Let's bring our Uke back. So we taxi out to the active at Lahue International. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, Daniel. Yeah, it's international. I think. Don't crucify me if it's not. All right, we're rolling into our hold short here. Let's go ahead and set our brakes for just a second here. Love that nose wheel actuation. Set up the autopilot. Probably would have done that on the ramp, but that's okay. Do that, and we'll do a speed hold, and we'll set to nav, and I think we're good. So let's go landing lights on, just to show you the difference between the two. We'll step outside really quick again. So I have the landing light on the left side and the taxi light on the right. You can see it casts just a little bit farther forward. It should be brighter. Oh, I forgot the recognition lights. We'll do those as well. And then we've got our wingtip recognition lights. So I took a little bit of a short approach. You can see the PAPI lights there. So we're a little ways down the runway, but I think the Learjet can get out of here and no problem. Let's run them up. So there's our takeoff in the Learjet. Nice and smooth. Unlike my frame rate. Let's take a look outside. You can see some of what I'm talking about. So we're not fully laden with fuel, but we've got way more fuel on board than we need. I didn't even hit 100% of the turbine. I was at about 90%. We're still at about 90%. And we're climbing at 2,000 feet per minute, and we're maintaining an airspeed. We're actually increasing airspeed now at about 150-ish knots. And we could go higher if we wanted to. We've got that nice AOA indexer, so if I pull back on the nose, we could probably get close to 4,000 feet where the aircraft gets upset at us. Obviously, this aircraft is GPS capable. You can do your navigation. I believe there's an ADF on board. No. Well, who uses ADF anyway? Didn't they take ADF stations offline? Pretty sure they did. Alright, we'll take one more look outside before we get set up for our touch and go. So we're coming up on our arrival airport here. We're obviously still very high, so let's go ahead and open up those speed brakes. They're, again, that switch is right there. I'm going to actuate it using my binding, but that's the switch. And you see we have a spoiler annunciator, and you can hear the swell of air over the wings. Really interesting position for spoilers. I didn't expect them to be that close to the inboard engines, but they are, so I'm sure Bill Lear knew what he was doing. Having never flown a Learjet, I can't speak to the accuracy of how this aircraft handles, but it handles how I would imagine a Learjet would. Heck, I've never even flown in a Learjet. If you have a Learjet and you want to let me fly in it, let me know. If you have a Learjet and you want to let me fly it under CFI supervision, let me know. Heck, if you have any airplane that you want to let me fly under CFI supervision, let me know. Nice tight turn. Keep the power on. Keep the power on. We've overshot the runway a little bit. This is probably salvageable. No, it's not. It's not salvageable. Very narrow. Oh, birds. Very narrow runway. Oh, that's an ugly touch and go. Let's do that one more time. A little bit of a crosswind factor. We'll compensate for that. Hopefully those birds are gone this time. Yeah, it looks like we scared them off. Oh no, they're still up there. So much more balanced landing. There's the touch, and here we go. More birds. I think we, in the real world, I think we might have sucked one into the left engine there. But this isn't the real world. This is Flight Sim, where you can do whatever you want, provided you have the hardware to do so and the money to dump into the sim, which is an exorbitant cost and is still broken as of now. But hey, at least they're harvesting right now. Okay, no. All right, we'll get back en route to La Jolla and we'll do a full stop landing there. And we'll close things out. Alright, utilizing our friends the spoilers once again. Lining up for a full stop landing at La Jolla. A little bit low on the glide path, so I'm going to bring the nose up a little bit. That'll let us trade some airspeed as well. All things considered, the Learjet is incredibly nice to fly. Even with these winds. La Jolla is it's a windy airport. I've been in and out of it twice. Well, into it once, out of it once, so twice. And this big old mountain range, more winds sweep off of. It's a little bit bumpy coming in and getting out of there. Here's a taxiway where we came out of. I'm going to start bringing power back. And a little bit past the threshold. Oh, good touch there. Spoilers can come out. And that, folks, is the Learjet 35 by our friends at Flight Sim Studios. I own 2 of their aircraft now, and I've not been disappointed by either of them. So, if you're in the realm for a nice, realistic business jet that you can take on intermediate range hauls, you know, this is no Citation 10, you're not going to be going super far lengths at super long distances, but with those tip tanks, the Learjet does get, I think, about 5,000, not 5,000, yeah, maybe it is 5,000 nautical miles of range. Let's do this. Well, I just aimlessly taxi back in here. Hello, Mr. Tablet. Please return. I require the fueling page. Oh, I didn't enable steering. Silly me. There we go. Now I can turn. I was wondering why my propellers weren't doing anything. Anyway, if I load up all of our fuel tanks to full, the sim estimates that we've... Okay, 2,000... I've struck a falcon. I've struck a falcon. Alright, that's a good endpoint. Thanks for watching the video. Okay, bye.